Today is January 6th, and I went out to the Riceland garden for a specific purpose. And while I was out there, I thought I would go ahead and get some drone shots of the current state of the garden. Just Google Maps and Google Earth, the satellite photos tend to get a little bit old, so I wanted something that's very current. And just by the way, just in case anybody's wondering, I am doing this drone flight. It's a DJI Mini 2. It is a recreational level drone, and I am operating under the recreational flight exemption. I do actually hold a commercial drone license, so I am legal to do that. This drone is really not what would need to be used for commercial for reasons, but it is perfectly acceptable for recreational use, and I am doing this flight purely for recreation, not for any kind of business. So if you understand that, awesome. If you don't and you're curious, talk to me offline. There's a lot more to drone flights than just buying one and throwing one up in the air. And the funny thing is, the test is not, I spent a significant amount of money getting ready for the test. It is a computerized test. It is about knowledge. It is about laws, regulations, rules, aircraft certifications, types, all this kind of stuff. Has nothing to do with the operation of that. You don't get tested on actually flying a drone. So you can get your commercial license and never even touch a drone. Then you've got to go try to actually learn how to fly it. And that's what I'm mainly doing with this little DJI Mini 2, is just learning how to fly it and be proficient with it before I spend the money for a commercial level drone. But in any case, so this is the Riceland garden as of today, and what you're looking at here is part of the reason why I went out there. It appears some material has been left, and at least the word that got to me, not that I'm anybody important, was they weren't absolutely sure, had some idea, but not absolutely sure who left it there or why. So I went out to get some samples and stuff. And I thought there was one kind of material, and it seems to be two kinds of material out there. There's what's in those white bags, and we'll talk about that at the end of the video, and what's these loads look like about a pickup load at a time of whatever this other material is that I suspect what it is. But anyway, so just having a chance to actually get a little bit of practice flying the drone and getting some current aerial photos of the garden, how it looks as of January 6th. 2024. So I'm just going to shut up and let it fly a little bit, and then we will get to why I'm out there at the end of this part. I'm out at the Riceland Rice Master Gardener's Garden. The background noise you hear is just Riceland Foods behind the plant. And in talking with some people, apparently something had been dropped off here. They weren't sure what it was. And so we take it as a learning opportunity and do what's called a bioassay. And this is something that any gardener can do. It doesn't take any special equipment. And it can be done, this is early January, so it can be done now to make sure things are good for the planting season. And what I'm talking about is whether it's compost, whether it's rice hulls, whether it's straw, bedding, whatever it is, if you're thinking about adding it to your garden, before even if you get it from a reputable place, unfortunately nowadays, there is always at least some small risk of some kind of chemical contamination. Many of the really good compost, commercial composting companies around the nation have even gotten hit a couple of times with material coming in with all the best best they could do to keep it from happening, somehow or another a persistent herbicide got mixed in and messed up some of their batches. And of course, they had to remediate that and had some customer contacts that they needed to work on. So it can happen anytime. But before you put it in your garden, it might be prudent to actually test it. And luckily, this particular test we can do, and it doesn't cost a lot of money. It really doesn't cost hardly any money, just a little bit of time. So what's behind me appears to be rice hulls. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. So this appears to be rice hulls, and being that it's in the bags, and it's not loosely in the bags, it's really put in there well, I'm assuming it is what's on the label, which is being advertised as a soil amendment for greenhouses and nursery applications. And what makes me feel better about it, never perfect, but better, is if you see right there where you see the OMRI on the bottom, OMRI, that is a certification for materials to go into a organically certified garden. So they can only use compost, chemicals, pesticides, herbicides, soil amendments, anything like that has got to be OMRI certified. Now, I don't know all the details. I'm not an organic certified grower, but to see that gives you some level of assurance that this is going to not damage your garden. But like I said, even some of the really good composters that did organically certified compost in the last few years have gotten hurt with something coming in, because you can't test every single ounce of every single material. In addition, it looks like there is some other material in a couple of places that's been dumped. Really don't know what that is. That is, I see straw in it, and these clumps that you see makes me think, some of those round clumps, makes me think manure. So this possibly is bedding from some animal. I don't know my large animals well enough. That may be horse manure. Just my first thought, and in this area, that's probably the most likely thing for manure that size, because I definitely know what cow patties look like. If so, that could be good, that could be bad. Horse manure was always known as a really great manure for farming. However, once again, with bedding and chemicals and stuff, you don't know, and that's one of the ways that some people are getting aminopyralid. Some of the pyralid contamination is they get hay to use as feed or as bedding that was sprayed with the different pyralids, and then it contaminates. And even if it's composted well and composted thermophilically, it can still last. And if I can see if those are indeed horse manure that has not been composted down, then this material, even if it does not have any herbicides to worry about, has not been fully composted, just by looking at it, if that is indeed. And the way it's sitting out here, it's not going to compost very well. All of this would need to be piled up in one or two large piles and allowed to compost for a year or two. But so here's the question: we don't know what it is. We don't know what's in it. We can assume everything is cool, or we can verify. You know what they say, trust but verify. So I didn't know there were going to be two different materials, so I only brought one bucket. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a sample of both materials, and then I will show you how we're going to do a bioassay, not to find out, you know, is there any specific chemical in there. And what we're concerned about is herbicides. We're not, for this test, it won't tell us anything about pesticides or fungicides, but it will help us determine, is there anything in there that, if added to the soil, will make growing our vegetables or our flowers or whatever a problem. So we'll discuss that in just a little bit more later, but for right now, I'm just going to get a couple of samples using whatever I have on hand, and we will proceed from there. And this, like I said, is an educational opportunity. This is not trying to be some kind of conspiracy theorist. This is not trying to be overly negative about anything. It's just trying to be cautious and take this as an opportunity to learn a technique, learn a skill, and just to inform ourselves more before going to the next step. So step number one, for this material, I'm going to get some from the bag, and I'm just going to maybe half a bucket is what I'm going to get. So there's about 1/3 of a bucket. Not exactly the cleanest bucket. This is not going to a chemical lab, so I'm not too worried. I know there's no contamination in that because it's been my own compost that I've been making and using. So that's just one sample. Now for this other material, I happen to have some Ziploc bags. And I don't need a lot, I just need a little bit. So I'm just gonna get a Ziploc baggie full. If this is indeed manure, I'm going to get a couple of those, and then just some of the loose material, which may be partially composted bedding. Not really sure what all's been in it. There we go. It's another sample.